One last time. Hey there. Hi there. Ho there. Welcome to Unit 14. Deserts. So, when we're talking about water, we also want to talk about the lack thereof deserts, which, surprisingly enough, a lot of water activity goes into shaping deserts, whatever little water there is. So let's talk about deserts. It's a good way to end the semester and the class since we live in one. All right. Sorry about that. Deserts. Section 1. What is a desert? Well, technically speaking, it's defined as an arid land that receives less than 25 centimeters of precipitation in a year. 25 centimeters is about 10 inches. So if you have a ruler, that's 25 centimeters. There we go. So that's the definition of a desert. An arid land, arid meaning dry. So it's a dry area, receives 10 inches or less of precipitation in a year. Any rainfall that does occur in a desert is typically intense and happens during some sort of brief rainy season. Does that sound familiar? Rainfall that happens during a short season of the year. Kind of like the monsoon. Water erosion is common in most deserts, even though there's not much of it. We don't get much precipitation. What little we get does shape the desert very much. Approximately 25% of the world's total land area is a desert, and some areas might not be what you would. Some areas that are defined as deserts might not be what you expect. Remember, defined is a desert defined as an arid land that receives 10 inches or less of precipitation per year. Precipitation is rain, snow, all kinds of water falling from the sky. So, some of the world's largest deserts are actually cold. The world's largest desert is Antarctica. So let's briefly just touch on the North American monsoon. This is just very brief. I could go into talking about this for hours. But let me give you some quick things on the North American monsoon, since we live in a place that's affected by the North American monsoon. So the term monsoon just refers to a seasonal change in the direction of winds. All right. Monsoon doesn't mean rain, it doesn't mean storm, doesn't mean thunderstorms, doesn't mean dust storms, it doesn't mean any of that business. Monsoon is just a seasonal change in wind patterns. So when we're talking about the monsoon, we're not talking about the rain, we're talking about seasonal change in wind patterns. Keep that in your brain. However, because of that changing wind patterns, we can get rain. North American monsoon specifically, because there's different monsoons around the world, but the North American monsoon is a pattern of pronounced increase in thunderstorm and rainfall over a large area of the southwest U.S. and northern parts of Mexico. And this typically occurs between July and mid-September. Typically. I can't stress this enough. Rain, rainstorm, thunderstorm is not the monsoon. That stuff is just called rain. Rain is rain. A thunderstorm is the thunderstorm. A dust storm is a dust storm. Monsoon is just the season. It's almost like saying winter. And let's say you live in Minnesota and it's wintertime, right? It's January. You wouldn't go outside and say, "Oh, it's wintering outside." No, it's snowing outside. All right. So rain is just something that happens in monsoon. Monsoon is the name of the season. It's kind of like, spring, summer, fall, winter. It's kind of like that. It's not an official, season, but that's what it's referring to, a seasonal change in wind patterns. So the storm is not the monsoon. A monsoon's coming. No. The monsoon is just the time of the year. Please get that right. It drives me nuts whenever I hear people say, "Oh man, did you go out in the monsoon?" Yeah, I was out in the monsoon for July, August, and part of September. What? What do you mean? It's just one of those things. So again, monsoon refers to this season. But the North American monsoon, as we get back into talking about deserts, is the primary water source for most desert ecosystems in the region. We get the most pronounced rain, obviously, in monsoon season, which helps to shape the desert and desert geology and geomorphology, topography, landforms, etc. real brief again, how does it work? So typically up until until June, wind patterns over Arizona is going from west to east. Hot, dry air, like most of the year. However, as the summer progresses and it continues to get hot, changing weather patterns, the hot kind of ridge of air kind of pushes itself more north. So now instead of air moving from west to east, it's kind of circling over the southwest. And in that circling over the southwest, it brings the warm air goes over moist areas like the Pacific Ocean, the Gulf of California, and that moist air then thus reaches Arizona, dumping the rain. The rain is not the monsoon. The monsoon is just the summer or the seasonal change in wind patterns. So here's a little chart for kind of Maricopa County on some averages, looking over the rainfall for since 2007. So these are the averages since 2007, and this is the current month. Right now, when I'm making this, it's in July, so it might be a little bit different depending on when you're viewing this. But if you look here again, July, August, September. So on average, these are the months that we get the most precipitation, the most rain. This July has been very wet, so it's actually above average. But if you look at almost every other month, we are well below average. All right, so last August, it's not August yet when I'm making this, we had, almost nothing compared to what we get on average. Same thing in September. So due to climate change, things are changing. If you remember, if you've lived in Arizona for a long enough time, I've been here a little over 10 years. And when I first moved here, it was like clockwork. Every July, August, September, you could expect rain just almost every day. It doesn't really occur anymore. So looking at some averages, so the average rainfall over a 12-month period since 2007 has been 9 inches, a little over 9 inches. The rainfall over the last 12 months, only 5 inches, so we're almost 4 inches off from normal. So that's kind of what happens. So anyway, water is kind of an important part of shaping the desert, the landforms that we see, believe it or not. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and pause here. This kind of made a major side note talking about Arizona and the monsoons, but we'll pause here. When we come back, we'll talk about the different types of deserts. Not all the deserts are the same. There's different types of deserts. So we'll talk about the 5 different types of deserts when we come back. See you in a minute.